Everybody. Hey Bruce. This is sort of a feedback video. I see a lot of students doing the facial expressions exercises. I'm seeing a lot of great stuff. I want to go through some Bruce's stuff and show everybody, you know, different things we can do. Now, I chose Bruce's stuff, one, because he has a nice face. And two, he did the assignment very well, right? But I do think he did it very well. There are things, though, that we can do to sort of enhance the expressiveness of these. He's got a very realistic kind of style. I dig it. I like that. There is a hint of cartooning that may go a long way with this, and I thought that his showing that with his realistic style and then kind of bringing the two together might be something that we can do. So one thing, let me choose. I guess, what's one that we should do here? I like this one. I like the joy. It's really ecstasy. Dionysian ecstasy. Alright, so that's our baseline for Bruce's face. And I'm going to keep that up here, actually. Because, look, I don't know Bruce. I don't know when his eyes are getting bigger or getting smaller or what the baseline is, but you know, I can compare it to that. So let's look at the joy one. So I'm going to have his face here, and I am actually going to cover that up because it's it's kind of a distraction here. So there we go. And now I'm going to draw over that. Just organizing my layers for easy navigation. And then what kind of pen do I have now? Ooh. No, I'm not trying to draw on that. Alright. Okay, I want this a little bigger. And I think that I should go for black, honestly. That's my preference. So here we go. I want to make this smaller. So Bruce did I thought he did a nice job with the realism. Now I'm going to show how I would draw this more cartoony and expressively. So pay attention to the kind of lines that I'm using, because I'm not going to draw this on a head. I'm just paying attention to the lines. So this, he's got that, and then these corners here, right? And I noticed that his eyes are squinty, right? Because he's having a lot of joy, right? So this is one way of doing it. Right, and I think that this is very fun. I like drawing his happy face. Let's see. And there's some correction there, just for some clarity here. These are not. I'm doing sort of a sketch, not necessarily like a rock solid gesture, but what I'm trying to capture here is just the kinds of lines. So, you know, when someone's face is having a lot of joy, their eyes, you know, they get squinty and they kind of point upward a little. Not quite what Bruce is here, but that's just the shape of his eye. Yeah, so what you'll see is that I'm taking a cartoony approach, right? And I think that it affords us a looseness. Now, I keep telling everybody to take a more cartoony approach or whatever, a looser approach. I am not saying this because that is the superior approach. This is a suggestion that I give because a little bit of cartooning in a realistic style can go a really long way. And drawing just photorealistically can look boring, frankly. So even artists that you think are drawing hyper-realistically, if it's really good stuff, there is a hint of expressive line work and cartooning involved. Just a small dab of it, and it works very, very nicely. So that is kind of what I am getting at. And that is sort of what we have here with Bruce. Now I'm going to start, I guess, giving some volume a little bit. Now am I concerned with his cheeks looking totally accurate? No. But I know that the corners of his mouth are up, and that is something that occurs with a smile. This is something I just throw in to all my faces. It's sort of something that it is there, see? But that's just something I do with my cartooning style. And he's got this line here for his chin. And does this look like Bruce? No. But it looks like Bruce's facial expression. Maybe it does look a little like him. I don't know. But that's really what I'm going for. And you'll notice I didn't put a ton of effort into the eyes. Right? Basically, all I needed to show that they're squinted was to draw these little squares and to kind of angle them up. Right? Now, if I draw this realistically, now it looks like Bruce's eye kind of looks something like that's a realistic one, right? Okay. The iris here, though, that's the dark part. So you really need to pay attention to the shape here, right? And then everything else is just icing on the cake. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in here, right? And then we're going to hone in on that eye, because I see people kind of overdoing the eyes a bit. And it's tempting because the eyes are important and you want to get them right. And so, it's always like, let me just fine tune it. But that's not necessarily the best approach in terms of being expressive, right? So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw the eye like that, right? That is the actual shape of his is this the iris and pupil? That is the actual shape of it. Do you see that? That's all you need. That and that. So that is reality. That's not necessary, but it's also cartooning, right? So you're extremely selective and you kind of exaggerate. Like in reality, this comes down a little lower here. You see that? But I can, exaggerate that a bit. Just make it a little bit less. And then here, I'm just going to draw it very similarly to the other eye. And then from there, now you can see the folds here in his eyelids. That's a little bit different than most people's folds. And I want to capture that because that, to me, in my opinion, and I don't know Bruce, that captures the essence of his appearance in his eyes. Probably. If I were to see him in person, that's probably an observation I would make. So it's a little strange, but whatever. Okay, so so this is kind of what I would do. I would have this fold. I have this. I start out with this, and I don't actually need to go any further. But if I choose to, right, I would just have that line there. And look, the fold of his eyelid kind of goes like that, right? That's sort of his cheek kind of gets in the way, but yeah, it kind of goes like this. And this line also, I don't know, it kind of represents his eyelid and his cheek coming together and squishing together a little, I guess. How does that look from afar? Looks okay, So yeah, that's sort of it. There's this kind of fold here, and then his nose comes in. The eye looks a little Looks a little too sinister there. I don't want him to look sinister. So, there we go. And that is sort of the happy, joyous one. Those are sort of the lines that I would use. Now you'll notice I didn't draw a head and throw it on the head. That's what I do when I'm making books. That's not what I do when I'm playing around. And this is playing around. So that's how I'm doing it. But again, I'm just picking out lines and being loose with them. You know, this little divot here that happens between the nose and the mouth. Is that accurate to his? No. But I know that it's there. And I just threw a couple of squiggles in. It's expressive. It works. It also looks kind of realistic. Realistic enough. Right? So my point is, a little bit of cartooning can go a long way. So if we kind of start with the base of being loose and cartoony and then throw it just a little bit of reality on top, or even a lot of bit of reality, then we're in a pretty safe spot, right? Just looks like a dude's face. It looks, you know, there's a line between the cartoony and the realism here that I'm walking. And, you know, you can either lean in one direction or the other, but wherever you lean, it needs to be a balance that works. It cannot be all one or the other. You can do that if you're drawing photorealistically, but if we're trying to draw expressive figures for comics, it can look a bit stiff, rigid, and almost like emotionless. Let's do this one. This is exciting. I'm excited to do this. All right. So, let me close this out here. Boop, boop. And then shove. This is going to be fun. All right, so I'm just going to, again, I'm not drawing it on a head. I'm just drawing it as I see it. And I notice his brow does that. His eyes kind of do that. His nose is up. And his mouth is like that. But really, you see those? The iris and the pupil? That does a lot, doesn't it? Focus on that shape and build out from there. Whatever style you choose to go with. The shape of the specific shape of these, of the iris and the pupil, and how it gets cut off by the eyelid, and that is important. That is extremely communicative, and it's something to pay attention to. Here he looks a little angry, so I need to. Yeah, all right. And then I guess some of the anger feels like it's coming down from there, so why don't I do that? And there we go. There we go. So the eyebrows needed to come way up. So again, from here, I could really go in either direction, right? This is pretty cartoony looking. And I could stick with this and keep going, okay? And that would actually kind of be my preference. But let's stack reality on top of the expressive cartooning. Let's do that here. You see, it's not that different. Now I do want to move his mouth down a bit a ways. Yeah, about right there. Now I'm not totally going for accuracy, but that just looked anatomically off. You know, this is a funny face, but I don't want him to look too goofy. Right, so I'm drawing this stuff in. I do the chin here. And then what are those eyelids doing? This one like that. So you'll see that I'm just adding reality on top of a cartooning foundation. Right? So if I take this, if I remove all that stuff, right? and like let's just go. What did I do there? Yeah, let's go here forward. Okay, so I'm going to copy this as a separate layer. There we go. There's a shock. Okay, so now let me copy that again. Because I want to save this for comparison, right? So I'm going to send this up here. What? Okay, sorry about that. I want to send this one up here. Maybe make it smaller. Okay, so that's the more cartoony one. So on top of that, right, I'm going to stack some reality on it. But keep the movement and the cartooning essence there. Okay, so let's do it. Cheekbone, right, I'm going to get that a little bit accurate. Okay. Oh, it looks like it's coming. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. So, again, some people just draw realistically right off the bat and it looks fine. I don't understand those people. And it's not most, I don't think, when it comes to like cartooning. I've seen it, but a lot of times just starting off with this more loose cartoony style is what gets the job done in terms of keeping the expression, because it's just little things, you know. Right, so let's see. So his eyebrows are beefier, like in the middle. So I'm gonna do that, and then they kind of fade out. And then, you know, why not make his nose more accurate? You know, everybody loves an accurate nose. Okay. And then I have that coming in here. So do you see how this is starting to look more realistic? Now I'm just altering the size of these a little bit. It's starting to look more and more realistic from this. But it still has that loose foundation of being a cartoon. And it suits it. It's eventually, after doing this and adding to it and refining it and making it less cartoony or whatever, eventually what ends up happening is that the cartooning is masked. You retain the expressive quality of the cartooning, okay? You maintain that, but the fact that you did any cartooning at all is almost hidden. And that's a neat effect, you know. I think, you know, if you look at like a lot of French dudes, they're good at walking that line. Mobius, right, when he was working as like, was it Jean Girard and doing his Blueberry book, he hides his cartooning pretty well, but it's in there. You know, this is looking more and more realistic, right? But that foundational sense of cartooning is not gone. So you want ultimately, my point is to show you what I think you should be getting at with this. I think that many of you are aiming for this, but what you have is stiff and rigid. And you need to start with just simple, goofy cartooning that is not like that. You need to start there. So this is as realistic as I'm going to push it before like I start making a darn completed drawing, right? You know, but this is kind of how it's looking. And, you know, it has a more realistic quality to it. right? That's just that doesn't quite. I've kind of lost what Bruce looks like, but that facial expression is extreme, and that just kind of happened. Yeah, I'm not copying the photo here, not totally. I'm really just trying to stay true to this as my foundation, and I actually feel like that those eyelids that took away from it, I'm gonna redraw them like that. Yeah, that looks better to me. You know, the iris and pupil I'm gonna make a little smaller than they are in the photo. I think that adds a sense of looks a little off there. Adds a sense of interest, I guess, right? I think that makes it more expressive. But yeah, we're approaching reality here. But this is not a necessity. You do not have to do this. This is not. You don't have to. The only thing you have to get is this, which is my point. If you get this, this just will happen. And the more you work on it, but the entire time you're working on staying true to the photo or whatever, your priority needs to be staying true to this cartooning thing that we have going on. All right, so I'm going to bring that down, and if I were like doing this assignment and I wanted a finished piece, right, I would, like if I was turning this in, this is kind of how I would want it. This is sort of how I would have it look. Right, like if I was doing this as a student, I would probably do something like that, and then let's see. Okay, bam. So now I'm gonna work over this and do a nice clean sort of cartooning thing on top of it. Make things really interesting. Why don't we use an ink brush? A digital ink brush, of course. And why don't we put the size down to like 8? Better go to 3. There we go. Okay, so I will probably do something like this for my sketch. Probably be doing something like that. Maybe throw that in there, and then I draw the face first when I'm doing this exercise, and then I draw the head around it. I think that's the best way to loosen up. This is all you need. It doesn't need to get any more realistic than this, I don't think. And I'll even pull that back and. There we go. So, this is all we would need. Again, this nose is starting to look a little too realistic, but that's it. That's all I would go for. That is all that is necessary, in my opinion, in terms of capturing reality. Now, I'm not good at cartooning noses, so mine always look kind of realistic. Right? Like this anime nose that I see so often, I don't understand it. Other people do it and it looks nice. When I do it, it does not. So I always draw things kind of realistically with the nose. That being said, you should learn to cartoon the nose. Do as I say, not as I do. That works for me stylistically. So yeah, that's it. That's all we're going for. Keeping it loose and cartoony. And keeping it sketchy too. If you want to turn this in, I'm for it. I'm all for it if you want to keep it this loose and sketchy. If inking it ruins it, don't ink it yet. Don't ink it. You don't need to do it in a pen. Get messy with it. Keep it messy. Keep it loose. I think that I would rather have like 20 sketches like this that take, I don't know, 50, take like 2 minutes each, than like one sketch that has like, 10 minutes or 15 minutes put into it. Right? Because this is a loose process. This is a fast process. The more you refine it, the more rigid it can become. So it's not something where we just keep refining it and it looks better. It's something where we keep starting from scratch and eventually 1 in 50 comes out good, and then it's 2 in 50, and then it's, eventually it's 1 in 10, and then it's 5 in 10, and then it's 10 out of 10. That's kind of how the progression works, I think, with facial expressions and gestures. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Thank you.